Today we're going to be looking at how to help our children who are low functioning autistic. Hey there, I'm Charlotte with Colorful Teaching for You. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, we're looking at children who are on the lower aspect of the autistic spectrum, also known as level 3. Okay? So this would make more sense if you are an EA or if you work with special needs children. But in your classroom, I know that you, just like myself, will have a child at some point who has low functioning autism. And so how do we help our children so that we see the best in them and they feel good about themselves? Now, low functioning autism is not black and white, but the symptoms are fairly obvious to note. So here are different things that you can see, but again, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, okay? The first thing you'll notice is children struggling with verbal and nonverbal communication and social skills. You'll then notice also difficulty with focusing and with transitioning. So from one topic to the next, or one subject to the next, or one room to another, so transitioning. The third one is repetitive behavior or maybe stimming, okay? And stimming is not a bad thing, it's actually a good thing. The fourth one is sensitivity to crowds, loud noises, or bright lights. You may also see developmental delays. Okay, that's for low functioning again. Now, like I said, it's not an exhaustive list, but it's just a starting point for you to be able to note. We are looking at 5 strategies that's going to help you help your children in the classroom. But for low functioning autism, I highly recommend, if you don't have this, ask for EA support, because you do need it in order to really thrive for both you and your child, okay? And all of the strategies that I talk about, please make sure that you use it in conjunction with your child's individualized education program known as an IEP, or tailor it to your child's needs, okay? The first one is we're looking at adapt the curriculum. So I find a lot of teachers like to, well, actually just look at a lower grade and use all of that for their child. So if you're teaching grade 2, some teachers will go back to kindergarten or grade 1 and just revisit everything, which can kind of get boring, or you may just be teaching something that a child already knows. So it is pointless there. So what I like to do, for example, is, or not for example, what I like to do is look at what my kids are doing right now. I use those same core competencies, or depending on where you're at, learning outcomes, and I actually just adapt them to meet my child's needs. So for example, if I'm teaching about mapping skills, I don't teach my class about mapping skills and then teach him or her about, well, my child who has autism, about let's say I don't know, the weather, how to look at the weather. It doesn't work that way. It's different. So what I do there instead is my class might be learning how to read a map, how to create a map, versus my child with autism might be learning at this point, how do I cross the street if they don't know? How do I cross the street and look both ways? Or how do I find my local grocery shop from the school? Or whatever shop is close by. If it is a grocery shop, now I've come to this grocery shop, I know how to get to it. How do I communicate? So basic communication skills right there. You're still focusing on mapping because the child's still learning how to move around and how to just look at the map. It's a visual map, really, if you think about it. But you're still developing those skills without veering too far off the curriculum, okay? So you're adapting here. Number 2 is ideal learning environment. So create a space for them to be able to learn. I like to create at least 2 to 3 different spaces. Number 1 is I like to have them as part of the class whenever possible. So I actually have a table and a chair just for that child. But if you are using flexible seating, then have a space for them, and whatever seating you're using for your children, have one for them as well. Now that's one one portion of the room. The second portion that I like to dedicate to is a table and chair for both my EA and education assistant and the child, so that they actually have another space where it's a little bit more quiet and a little bit more focused on what that child is learning, so that the child's not focused everywhere else, right? So that's another space. The third offering is if you have a loud class. I tend to have loud classes, so if you have a loud class, then choose perhaps a different space for them to learn. Maybe book some time in the library, or if you can get some office space because the library is too busy, then book that, because a lot of the times children who have autism, low functioning autism, need a quiet environment, sometimes with dim lights. Okay, so you're catering to your child's needs depending on when they need it. So that is your ideal learning environment. The third thing is to have a calming space. So one of the things that I find is children with low functioning autism sometimes can go from 0 to 10 very quickly. So instead of just allowing this to full-on outburst, because not allowing, but instead of just watching this full-on outburst happen and then trying to rush them to a sensory room, if you have access to a sensory room, not all schools have that, then that can be quite a difficult thing, and sometimes the sensory room is booked. So what I like to do is I like to create a sensory space in my classroom where the child can automatically know exactly where it is and how to use it, and then that when the child feels emotions coming or is already there, we can move that child there, or they can move themselves there. And then we look at the different things that are in that space. So I've created a way for you to create a sensory area in your classroom, and I've listed them on my blog, www.colorfulteachingforyou.com/blog, and I'll link to the exact blog post in this article so you can go to it and find a sensory resource for you. This resource is applicable for teachers because it allows you to create this space on a shoestring budget, so you don't have to spend much, if anything at all, really. So you're going to create this, but even though it says grade levels on it, I want you to keep in mind you're not looking at the grade level, but you're looking at your child's abilities. Where are they at? What do they need? And what kind of activities can they use? Okay. Now, when you are creating this space, and you may want to track their thinking level, depending on your child, you may not be able to do this part, the reflection part, but if they can do it, unless they're able to do the writing, I would just steer clear of the writing and look at the other activities for them. Okay, so there you go, creating your calming space. The fourth one is, this one is very important, parent intervention, or involvement, not intervention, sorry. Here, keep in contact with your parent via email or phone. I like to do this via email because it's just faster than just quick messages. And what you can do is just let the parent know, this is what we did throughout the day. This is your child's progress. This is where they're at right now. So I tend to send this email out just before the end of the day, because it helps the parent when they come in to pick their child up. They know what to expect. They also are able to stay consistent when they get home, so that we're all on the same page. And another thing that I also like to do is I ask parents to send me an email before they even show up, if it's possible, or message me, just letting me know what the child is going through in the morning, how they're at, because when that happens, and that usually doesn't happen until you build that relationship with the parent, I know exactly what to prepare to make that child feel welcome first thing as soon as they enter. Because as soon as I'm able to get them to feel welcome, I build that trust with them, right? And then the day starts off bright and we start our learning right away. Okay, the next thing is, this is my fifth one, and this is what I find a lot of teachers find difficult doing, is finding a support system. You cannot do it all. It's too much. Depending on how much, when your child has an outburst, how difficult is it for you to control? Because perhaps the child is much stronger than you are, and a lot of them are big stronger than I am. So you might need to get support, because you want to make sure that child and you are safe. So if you're having a lethargic day, or that child is much stronger than what you are able to manage, you need to be able to pick up the phone and contact somebody on that list. So figure out who that support system is, talk to them in advance, have your phone with you so you can make that phone call. And know that most of us teachers, and if you're an education assistant, we all understand that you're doing your best and we are not faulting you for it. In fact, it is better to ask for support than not. Okay? So let's recap really quickly. We looked at the signs of low functioning autism. We looked at the relevance of applying the 5 strategies we talked about. And the 5 strategies that we talked about, we're going to recap right now, is adapt the curriculum, ideal learning environment, common area or space, parent involvement, and support system. All right. I hope this has helped you work through or help your children who have low functioning or level 3 autism. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at any time. In the meantime, remember to create, experience, and teach from the heart. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you later. Take care.